Listen and learn.
And then suddenly it's like this pop territory.
The underbanks thing is better solved by you. What happens after that? What do you do after that to broaden?
What do you think of when I say the word design?
But what do you mean by not
and no
enjoying
one's happy?
It? Oh,
You know,
Because when you think about it, you're a kid. Things don't go your way, what do? You cry, you whine, you throw a fit. You want your parents to feel sorry for you. You feel sorry for yourself. It's how you deal with things at that age. And then you grow up, but you don't necessarily shed that habit, that mentality. And it becomes obvious, right? I mean, you can talk to someone for 30 seconds and you know right away if they have that victim mentality. The world's falling down, they're tired, they have so much to do, they're so busy, X, Y, and Z. Look, having that mindset does two things for you. One, it makes you come across helpless and weak, and no one wants to come across that way. Two, it does not get you to where you're going. It does not change the situation. Right? Here's the reality. There is always a way to get what you want. There is always a way to position yourself to move away from what you don't want. You can quite literally become what you want to become, but you cannot look at life like it's this problem, like it's against you.
And secondly, what do you make of the kerfuffle yesterday at the airport?
Mirror, what do you see?
When they asked him, what do you think increases with
W chassis, and you put it all together, and what do you get?
What do you most yearn for?
I believe that some part of us, our consciousness or our soul, will last for
since we began polling. What do you think are...
So what do you do when you fall down? Get back.
Training, what do you think the most important...
What do you need to do? And then...
Max.
all right. What do you think of that?
Which has gone unaddressed, which is, what do you do now? And
the nurse has asked, what do you want us to give next?
Of this video, because I have a life. Okay.
What do you think, James?
But Squeaks, what do you think would be scary about living in...
What do you think?
What do you think would happen?
And what do you like to do?
Athletics. What do you think the state of them to use it and checking in on that? What do you think?
What do you think I left out? Or
what do you find super hot?
Position of the body. Sage, what do you think about the piece in general?
Once it happens.
Where do you want your mark to be?
Interview. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? It's the uncomfortable.
For you personally, where do you stand on the protests during?
Where do you pick up your CEO learnings from?
Is your vision of Brainerd? Where are we now? Where do you want to be? And almost everyone that
to the win, but where do you get your actors from?
So this is another part of thinking about volunteering: is where do you want to sort of show up on that spectrum? Purpose at. I'm sure you find meaning at some level.
Where do you guys live again?
So where do you draw the line, Professor? Where do you bank?
Yes. So where do you do that? So
is where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
What do you do for a living, or where do you come from?
To find things, like where do you find good?
Hannah Gadsby.
Where do you hope to see the world?
Where do you think you're going? Where do you stand on the freedom?
Where do you think digestion begins?
When do you want me to serve the squash and the beef?
She's fleeing a country. And I'm thinking in the back of my head that when do you ever find...
Kicking off this week, when do you see resolution to this dispute happening?
So when do you recommend for...
When do you feel most beautiful?
When do you think the foot...
And then like when do you need maybe just like a...
Like you're almost there, you need just more resolve.
Is it not? When do you care what some...
Mainly, what do you eat it with? And when do you eat it?
Effective, but then also when do you see things that aren't effective? And right, just because...
Is that going to be on the test? How do you spell structural?
How do you think about navigating those different spaces, creating a work that draws on
institutions all at once? How do you explain that change in America?
Well, because I...
How do you think you would have answered that question?
How do you get...
More optimistic than he was, about the same? Do you have a difference in view? How do you see Europe?
So, how do you elicit...
Recognize the world as it is, where it is, and figuring out how do you test.
And we have remaining, how do you skip
every single day? How do you retain? How do you find a dynasty?
How do you strike that balance?
Well, how do you do that?
Now, how do you go about doing that?
My own pace. People say, how do you read a book a day?
How do you really feel about the...
But how do you build a new branch of engineering?
Me is, how do you live a happy and fulfilled life?
We really think of it as how do you change the entire economy?
Spanish like to add, so you get farmer. And how do you say
future?
How do you feel about the vaccine?
How do you find a book that can destroy you?
Open and free sound that is not nasal, okay? How do you do that?
Now we have to talk about how do you actually use these two metrics.
Why do you want to forget this? Why do you want to become slow?
Anything said, well, why do you think we just didn't pass through each other?
Why do you think it is that...
Why do we need liquid nitrogen at -196?
Why do you have to dress up like a sailor?
What else are you?
No, I'm American. Why do you think I'm Lebanese?
The first is, why do you want to do this work?
Why do you want to build self?
Why do you take such a risk?
Why do you think this song has had such longevity?
So what? Why do you care?
Sir, why do you want to build this habit?
Why do you feel it's important to really dig into this
subject?
Why do you wear 2 watches?
That you have. Why do you have the stuff to erase?
Why do you invest in new ideas?
Open a door. Why do you want to open a door?
Why do you make more and more weapons?
Do you think he's
crazy? You know, if you think about it like yourself, why do you go to a music event?
When I said, why do you want to work for us? Well, because
Why do you want to work here?
What's your itch? Why do you...
Why you think you feel the way you feel.
Do this. How do you do it? Why do you do it?
Why do you think it's so useful?
They were like, why do you feed trolls? I'm like,
why do you think I threw out the first lot to you guys?
Of them, but that
when we say lose.
One, of course. And at one point he looked at me and he said, Mama, why do you wear makeup?
Why do you think are liquids so much more rare than solids?
Who do you think built
2016? Who do you think is Putin?
Who do you think's behind that?
Something else. And it also would say things like, who do you think you...
Valuable? Who do you hold up as an...
So, next question. Who do you think should make nuclear decisions?
Extremely innovative. And you say, who do you think your user is?
With poor people have beliefs from the family, or you can...
Start to build your business, start to generate revenue. And who do you think...
Who do you always love watching on screen?
You think you are. Your CV's not right. You don't have the right background.
Who do you ask for advice? Who do you call when you need life advice? And who do you feel most at home with?
What kind of world do you want them to grow up in? Who do you want them to be?
Consider to be a mentor.
My mom.
So logistical, who do you ask for help and how?
Ask those questions. Who do you want to be?
Who do you say yes to? Who do you say no to? What about this? What if someone uses it again?
Like when someone used to say, who do you like? And then you'd have to either go watch
right now in session, or who do you think ends up?
Like I said when I sat down, who do you focus on?
TV's going to be bad for it. No. Okay, who do you want?
The kind of Ghostbuster thing, who do you call?
I thought they were gonna push me off a
couple. Who do you think is providing those?